Welcome back, everybody. Today, I just want to talk to you about the latest set of workflows and a whole bunch of new models which I've trained. It's all supporting the new dataset course, which is going to be for members. Obviously, you guys will see it here, but then it will go to members only. And then we're going to be adding more stuff like that up there for those people that want to pay and get some extra in-depth, detailed tutorials. So, you can think of it almost like stuff to help you follow along the course, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of what is going on. So first thing I'm going to need to tell you is DJZ nodes is updated. All of the prompts are like the caption lists for every model that's been trained. They're all in there. You use 0 for the 0 models, and I'll explain that exactly when we get there. Also, the PhotoFlux captioning tools, that's where you're going to see the new workflows. So what we got the old stuff, which obviously you've already seen videos on. But we have Shift Vision, which uses the previous UGen2 Qwen to do the captioning. And then we've got some new stuff. So Photo Shift One Vision Recaption is the one that's going to remix your data set. And then the Caption Tools One Vision Recaption, that's just going to make captions for training a model again with better captioning. That's all. So if you had a blip or a WD tagged dataset from 1.5, 2.1, or XL, you can load that dataset and then have it give you better captions for training with Flux. So that's what this is about, optimizing your captions to get better training. Now, this is typified by the results, and I'll be referring to these results when we do the in-depth course. But to give you guys the quick overview, and we're already 2 minutes in. Last time I filmed this video, it took an hour. So let's see if we can speed things up. In all cases, and for all the models we're going to look at today, there's a pattern. So this is a little bit different, I'll admit. But essentially, 0 models are just a recaption. So the images have not changed. It's just that. And then the 0 is the fast Flux trainer. Because on Civet AI, there's 2 ways to train Flux. There was a promotion with fast training, and it is fast. It takes like 5 minutes. So I wanted to be able to compare the 0 model, which actually does capture it. Here we've used Midjourney version 3. So if you're familiar with the visual aesthetic of Midjourney version 3, you can see that that has been captured here. Okay, obviously the theme is old gods. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of thing in the model. The V00 or double numbered version is a full Flux train. So that would be using the standard config we use, which is a Prodigy cosine. Okay, the details are in the Discord, and we've gone over them in my training video. So if you want to look that up, you'll be able to find that information, or just come and ask. V1 is a remix. And what I've used for this one is the Robert Crumb Lora, which we took out in the live show last week. It was pretty fun looking at community Loras, and one of the ones was the Robert Crumb style. And so what I did was I mutated my model with injecting that during the recaptioning, remix, and then finally captioning for training this model. I'll explain that all when we get there. Version 11, of course, is the full version, the full train version. And the attempt is to try and make errors look cool by focusing on creativity with the AI rather than replication, okay? That was the whole point of the Old Gods project. And as I say, 0 and 1 are fast train, 11 and 00, or 11 and 00, they are the full train versions, okay? So this will give you a sort of Elder Gods type aesthetic, sort of mystery and horror, magic, that kind of thing, okay? And then obviously 0 is just, that's going to be a cool Midjourney 3-esque style. There's loads and loads of you can take your time to look through these. I love this model. It's great. On to Cyber Ninja. Now, Cyber Ninja, again, it's the exact same thing again, guys. So 00 is a full train. 11 is a full train. 0 and 1, those are both fast trains. And in this case, we have the original data set, which is Midjourney V3. Okay, some Space Warrior type stuff, which I had old prompts for. Okay, and you can see the difference between the fast train and the the flux remix. And then over here, we have the first mutation, which is to crumb style again. And you can see here that, yeah, it's mutated it to crumb step style. So there's your fast version. There's your full train version. Now, with the captioning for these, as I said, all of them are in the prompt. So if you update DJZ nodes, you'll be able to just use my prompt generator. If you don't do stuff like that and you want to type everything in yourself, you can. Every model should have the zip file. There it is. It's in training data, and that will contain them there too. But it's easy, just as easy to just come in here and download the text files. It's not such a big deal. Right? All right. So let's move on to the next model, because like I said, I've got quite a few to show you. Now you can see there's a theme here. Okay. Again, the 0, was trained on to full train on just the images. Okay. V1 was kind of calibration because this was the first model I did in the project. V2 is a clean mutation train. So you can think of V1 as a cut down data set that had 30 images, not 120. Okay. And as a result, it took less time to train. It was less effort to curate and realign and check all of the stuff. But once I was happy with the setup, I just did another run with the remix tool, which is, that's the One Vision recaptioner with PhotoFlux. And that gives you an amazing model, which you can then train. It's already captioned, like I say. So again, the pattern is the same. 1, 2, and 3 are all fast trains. And then 0, 0 being a recaption of the original images. Now, where did I get them? Back in Zenkai, I had a woman model that had open, what was it called? Public domain 4K photography. I'd managed to curate about 700 images. Of course, that's far too much for a Flux Lora. So we've cut that down to what I like the best. I got the best ones I went through and I really curated hard, got it down to a reasonable number, and then took a sample to do the early trainings and setting up of the mutation run, which we're going to get there. All right. There'll be timestamps too. So you can skip it if you want. Got a couple more models to look at. So version 22 would be the first evolution run. And as you can see, it's really nice. What I did was I put in the old gods and I put in, I think, a little bit of Cyber Ninja maybe. Yeah, you can see it in the backgrounds. And so this is to give you a sort of idea of how you can make your models more creative by mixing in your previous work on top of an old model which you might have just had lying around. Then you can sort of breathe new life into it because it'll really sing once you get it into Flux. All right. So V3 is fast trained with a new mutation stack. And then V33 is a full train of that model. And this is, like I said, this is sort of the last one I've done. I'm really happy with this one. It's very creative. And the idea is, because it's got a good idea of what we're doing, if I was to image a person in here and put this high up, it's going to make some really artistic and creative portraits. But testing still has to be done. All of these images are literally just the captions being prompted with the Lora. So you've got an idea of what it wants to make. And then you can see how far it'll go. It should be quite elastic. I've been told that V2 is one of the more elastic versions right now. But as I said, I've been so busy training for 5 days straight. I haven't really had enough time to do all of the things. I haven't in-painted with it yet. I haven't done a lot of things with it. All right. So then we move on to Cyber Society. And this one's a special model for me because one of the first art books I put out back in 2022 was the Cyber Society Volume 1, which I think was made with Midjourney V2 and a lot of Photoshopage. But basically, this is the introduction to a fictional world, which I've been illustrating for a long time. And if I just chuck that off the screen real quick, what I decided to do was do a volume 2. And I thought, what better way to do a volume 2 than to really experiment hard with the style. So train on the artwork, which I already have, and then put it through this incredible process that we've developed here to show what we can do with that. So obviously 0 is the fast train. This is very faithful to the original work as well. A little bit crazy in places, but to be honest, the bump in coherency and clarity is insane. Putting it into the full train gave us a little bit better representation of the style with the advantages of Flux. So Flux is sort of saving the day and doing some stuff here, but we've effectively revived it. Now, the captions are so complicated. You can't see them. The captions are so complicated, we wouldn't actually use those to prompt for the final collection. I would prompt differently. So the reason I'm making this is like my tool, which I will then enhance the original images with. That's the idea anyway. That's my starting point. For fun, I decided to do a mutation stack involving Black Sun, Cyber Ninja, Old Gods, and not the true world to see what it would do. And what it ended up producing was very interesting. Like I said, I've been trying to capture the V2, V3 sort of synth. There's like if I was able, can I zoom in on these? Yeah. So there's a sort of strange texturing that was coming from early. I can't zoom in on it. It's coming from early synth art, which is sort of missing now, and I really like it. And you're going to see a lot of it in these collections because I'm trying to break it, because I like it when it goes wrong. And then, like I said, the errors are sometimes very interesting. And yeah. But this is trying to make everything in the prompt, and I'm like giving it crazy things to try and make. Okay. So that's the idea with all of these. Now, V1 is obviously the fast train, but it still looks bloody amazing. This is actually closer to what I was aiming for, ironically, and I think it's because the prompts are a bit more sensible or something. I don't know. They should be the same. They should be the same. But anyway, let's just move on because I don't want to spend too much time getting into the weeds on each model. I think 2 minutes per model is probably more than enough. So now we get into the sort of the more developed. This is the more developed new style. Now, just a point of note. If I was to type DJZ, it's going to give you a lot of results. And if I was going to say Old Gods is actually based on an earlier work which had a different name. I think it was like Elder. Do you know what? I've made hundreds of models. I'm not even going to guess. I know it doesn't have the same name for this one. But for this one, if I say DJZ Cyber, it's going to be all 2.1 stuff. Okay. Let's see. Definitely DJZ Woman, because that one was part of Zenkai. So we have Fractal Woman, Cyber Woman, Hacker Woman, and Friend Zone. That was a cool model. Okay. And then if we come to Cyber Society, I think this one was actually private. So I don't think I released, because obviously this was for the book. So I didn't actually ever release that as a model. But I released things that would make something like it. Black Sun was actually an evaluation model that I made ages ago. We did a deep study on Lora training and checkpoint training. So the same data set used to train a checkpoint and Lora to compare the two. Okay. I won't bore you with the details. If you're interested, go ahead and check that out. It's always interesting to know where these things come from. So 0 would be a recaption of the original model, but this was done with Florence. Okay. So because earlier, back in September when we started this research project, we were looking into ways to automate old models and maybe revive 1.5 and 2.1 models to the 1024 by 1024, and then realign the captions using vision, various vision models and LLMs to give us a more optimized prompt for captioning, not for generating images. So it's a little bit different. All right. And then what I've been doing recently is ways of taking that image, turning it into a prompt-friendly prompt, and then using that with image to image and a Lora stack and a few other tricks. And then you can mutate into other styles. That's the whole concept here. V1 is actually the previous. This was almost all of the models we've been looking at. Like V44 and V4 use the newest version, but everything else was using Uform Gen2 Qwen to derive the captions from the images. So it's quite important that even though the method that I'm going to show you is actually for just this, it's taken me a week to get there. Okay, because we've put a lot of work into researching this without changing anything, because I really wanted to make sure that when I show these, it's all been done the same. Every single one of these was done the same. And then when we get to Black Sun, it's all the same up to 3. And then from V4 onwards, it's going to be using Lava 1 Vision, which is the LLM that we've ended up. We can drop Blip, we can drop WD Tagger, and we can drop Florence and Uform, and we can just use Lava. And I think it's a good idea because Lava 3 just came out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be some new Lava Vision models dropping soon. And so having our process aligned with whatever they're doing, I mean, we can just swap in anything really, but I think these guys have got a good service, a good model. So what we got here is the V0 was obviously the Florence using the original data set, recaptioned with Florence. V1 was the Uform Qwen. And then V3 would be our first mutation stack, I believe. Yes. So this would be our first mutation stack. Now, what did I mutate it with? I think I mutated it with, you can't really tell because it's just the fast train preview. I believe it's been mutated not with Old Gods, but definitely with Cyber Ninja, and certainly not the True World. Yeah, definitely not the True World. And Black Sun, yeah, obviously it's got the it's using probably V1 Black Sun, you know. So I'm putting itself into it. So you've got lots of options for when you want to do this process. So anyway, here's the V4. The V4 looks excellent. That's a fast train as well. So, you know, we're kind of throwing all of the stuff, train everything, throw it all in. And then as for this one, again, this would be a big stack with a whole bunch of the models that we've been using, but we're recaptioning it with, we've recaptioned it with 1 Vision, Lava 1 Vision, right? Now, I have decided to start a new full train on Not the True World. So everything up to V4 Lite was manual captions on this project. But V5 onwards, we're going to be experimenting with using Lava to get the same or better effects. All right. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And as I said, the captions, because of the fact that these were all manual, they had individual style triggers. But when you use the automation, at the moment, I wipe out the original. Well, I don't wipe them out. It's just a completely new set of captions. So you have to choose one or the other. But what I plan on doing is actually appending the new caption to the old caption. And then that way you get a hybridization of the recaptioner. So you don't have to drop your old captions. You might have spent a lot of time on them. So this is why eventually there will be another workflow coming soon, which will show you how to do that. All right, so there is Epoch 1. This is looking really nice for the, this would be the Not the True World 55 Lite, which would be the, it's not been remixed or anything. It's just a retrain with the new recaptioner. Okay, so I think it's time now to take a look at some workflows, right? Won't take long. But do you believe me? So this is 1 Vision recaption, and it's part of my caption tools workflows. So it'll all be in the folder pack. As I say, you can just update this. You can clone it straight into Comfy. There's a video all about that. Now, what is it doing? I'm not going to bore you with the whole mechanics, okay? Just give you the basic overview because it's pretty self-explanatory if you have the time to just read the lines and see where they all connect. What's happening is we've got project name, we've got the path to where the images are. So you put your path to the images, the folder, right? You set the index to 0, and when it's on increment, every single queued job will do 1 image in sequence through the folder. So if you've got 100 images, you just queue it up for, as I have here with 281, you'd queue it for 100 images, okay? And when you run that, it's going to increment through the image index of the folder. And then what's happening is we are making the image into 768 so it doesn't blow up one vision. I find that making it smaller stopped it from crashing out so much. I don't know why, but I think that bigger images make it use more memory. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you think it's got to look at every piece of the image. So, but by shrinking it to 768, it doesn't make any difference in terms of what it sees. So I don't think it's going to diminish the output. We have my image size adjuster, which is turning the image into a safe 64 set so that when we come to do the remix on it, it's going to be prepared. But you actually don't need to keep this image. Really, you just copy all the text files because they will have the correct naming. And you can just copy all the text files into a folder and then copy all the images from the data set into that folder. Now it's ready for training. There's nothing else you need to do, really, because these are really just so that you know which captions which. But the file names match, so it's purely for convenience. It doesn't have any real thing. So I've used my project file path generator to make sure everything's organized. So as long as you are changing your project name, and it's going to use the file names to drive, so that should be fine. Just a note that if you decide that you're going to put it on to fixed and just calibrate the first image over and over before you do a big batch, I do that. Just bear in mind that you might want to put that to overwrite. Otherwise, it throws an error about, oh, this text file already exists. You don't want it doing this when you have a big batch run. You want it on new only so that it makes a new file for every time. All right. The path, interestingly, just goes straight into the save for this one, but it has to be appended with a .text to save properly for this one here, right? And then that way you get your save file that matches the image name. This one was 283.png. Okay, and obviously we have the trigger. So if you have a trigger, so I'm using NTTW style, it's going to go at the beginning like this, NTTW style, a futuristic cityscape with multiple levels of walkways and buildings, featuring a central circular structure and various other architectural elements. Building. That's not a very good, I think it must have run out of characters because I did give it a little rule. I said for the tag style, use single word tags only, 40 characters or less, describe the most significant details as a comma-separated list. And then for this one, using precise language in 360 characters or less, capture an impression of the image. This description should enable the subject of the image to be reproduced, identify important artistic details, and ensure smooth backgrounds are less detailed. Because I find that when you use a remix prompt, it kind of goes crazy. Trying to reimagine like smoke. It'll turn smoke into all kinds of stuff. So you have to, yeah, anyway. Also, this is an experiment. I believe it's actually 400 tokens for Flux for the attention window, but I might be wrong. And someone said it's actually 400 characters. So I'm doing a bit of a test here. To see if by limiting it to 400 characters, and it does give you much shorter prompts. It's interesting that I only got one word out of this one. Normally it gives you quite a few. But the biggest thing with this was I only had one case where it said futuristic, futuristic, futuristic all the way for that. I only did that once in 200 captions, which is a big improvement on the previous, which would do like, I don't know, probably like 3 or 5 for every 30. So there was a lot of manual editing that needed to be done just to catch when the LLM went nuts and started hallucinating. But this one doesn't hallucinate anywhere near as much, which is nice. Okay, so I hope I've explained how this works. You simply put your project name in, put your trigger token in, put your folder in, set it to 0, and then queue up the number of images. When you press go, it's going to save them all into output, one vision, the name that you gave for the project, cap, which is just the folder for captions, and then you'll find all of your text files and a copy of the images to, correspond all side in there. Okay. And if you want to set a preview, I've got the previews. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. All you need is obviously to install the missing nodes, and it will download the models on the first run. The models do take a while to install. It might look like it's not installing, but it is. It's just not a very good, it doesn't show you properly. It seems to look like it's frozen. So go and get something to eat, come back, whatever. It will download. It just, honestly, I was convinced there was something wrong, but you just got to have faith. Just wait for it to come. If you go and have a look inside, you can see the models slowly coming in, but there's quite a few of them. So that's the reason why it's so slow. It's the Hugging Face cache being weird. All right. Slowly added to it and improved it many times over the past few weeks. And then the last week, I just had to get all that training done. So all my spare time has gone into it pretty much. Although I wouldn't be that crazy. I've moved offices and all kinds of disruptions. So, but yeah. So here we have it. Same thing as before. Hit 0. Make sure you change your dataset path. Put in your project name. Put in your trigger token. All that is exactly the same as the last workflow. The difference being the trigger token is actually being applied to the final recaption. So I'm going to go from the back so this makes more sense and we don't have to retread everything that we've already done. So this is the same thing we were just looking at. All right. And this is going to save the final images. And so this will be the actual transformed, the new images, the new data set. So these are all new images with all new captions from the image that was made. Okay. So we're not saving what we prompted. We're not saving what we think it is. We're saving what it thinks it is at the end. Okay. Obviously, we're going to have to downscale the upscale, because we would have put it to 2K. That's another thing. The data set will be in 2K. That gives you some future proofing, because currently it means the data set is actually bigger than the current maximum dimensions for most leading models. They'll be shrinking your models down to train them. Okay. There's no danger or problem with that. Okay. Right. And we could improve this by actually adding multi-size, but I don't want to complicate things in the basic. This is the basic overview, guys. All that kind of stuff will be in the main course. So, right. So we already know what this is. There's no need to go over it. Okay. This is the same thing. It is saving the new image, generating a new set of captions, and then saving that out. And that's your new data set, right? Very simple stuff. This right here is the PhotoFlux upscaler. So it's taking whatever image we create, upscaling it 2x, applying color correction with D-Log, and then saving the image and the text file as a pair in a folder so you can just scoop it up. There is one caveat, but we'll get to that at the end. So if I look at this here, this is just your standard flux sampler. We're generating an image, 12 steps. That's about all you need to know. The Lora stack is right here. This is an example of how I would do the mutation stack. So 0.6s or 0.7s, I'd say 0.7s for 3, 0.6s for 4. It really depends what the Loras are. But I've got my Not the True World in as a general detailer. I got my Cyber Ninja for the sort of cyborg ninja aesthetic. My Black Sun, which is what this is based on. And then also Woman V22, because I think it does great stuff with the female characters that get generated, right? It's able to pull from this, essentially. Then what we're doing is we're taking the prompt. We're using my Zenkai prompt V2 for this particular run. We're going to be using a Cyber Ninja random caption, and we're going to start it with Black Sun style and end it with Woman style. So we're not using the full caption for the Black Sun or the Woman. We're just invoking them. And then we're mostly using a Cyber Ninja prompt. So as you can see here, Cyber Ninja style, and you can pause it and read that if you want. Okay. And it's essentially nesting everything. All right. Now, the funny thing is that's the second half of the prompt. The first half of the prompt is what is the image. So whatever the image that's being loaded is going to be interrogated. Okay. And then that gets slammed onto the end. So there's your inference prompt, which is obviously a lot longer than something which we used for training. Hope this makes sense. All right. It's very small on the screen. Okay. So the first half of the prompt is what it's seeing. The second half of the prompt is my Lora injection. All right. And then we've messed around with the string weights. We've messed around with the stack weighting. And ultimately, that creates an image. It'll move on to the next image. So the main things you need to be aware of, obviously, is the denoise, which I'm using 0.2, and then obviously the boost. So I'm using 3. Now, obviously, if I go lower on the denoise, it's going to be more like the original image. And if I go higher on the shift, it's going to follow the prompt more. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to do as little changes as possible to my original work while also benefiting from all the upgrades of the new model, because obviously it does just make images much, much better. But then I'm also trying to bring back in some of the nasty noise by deliberately training things like, these are both trained on version 3. That's but trained on version 3. It's very heavy on Midjourney v3 because I like that. I like that mess. Anyway, that's pretty much the entirety of how this is working. I hope I haven't missed anything out. I'm just looking around here. If there's anything I've missed out, it's because it's text to image stuff. We're in image to image mode right now. So you can easily just switch it across. It doesn't matter. But yeah, because like I said, you could, I mean, it's nah. If you wanted to do text to image, I would probably move the output to the vision so that but then that's kind of going to give you a feedback loop. I'll make a new one. It's much easier to do it that way. You're going to have to change more than a couple of things for that. All right. Meant to be used in image to image mode due to the way this is set up. So, all right. And then there's one last thing. You'll notice there's a Python script inside PhotoFlux captioning tools. This Python script can be dropped into your new data set, and you simply run Python rename _ images. What it's going to do, because Comfy has this thing where, see if I can find an example of this. I haven't mutated that yet. I've probably already done it. Let's see if we can find. Oh, it'll be in my outputs folder, won't it? That's useless. Right. 2 secs. If I go into my outputs folder, into cap, and then, I don't know, v2 set. Yeah, there you go. So you can see it there. So the _0001, right? I've got a script that removes that for you. Because obviously, if I wanted to train this, it doesn't work. In fact, why not? Let's just do it now, and I'll show you how it works. So we take this, right? So let's open this up, download it, and then I will drag it into my folder like this. I will open a terminal, and remember, if you don't have right-click terminal, you can put in the address bar, CMD, enter, and it'll do the same thing. Well, it's actually a little bit better. It's not PowerShell, it's the real terminal. And what we're going to do is we're going to type Python rename. You can actually press tab and it will fill it in for you. There it is, done. Now, what did that just do? Well, it deleted the _0001s, all right? But maybe let's tell you a little bit more about what it actually did. So it doesn't just do that. It will only remove the _000, like 4 zeros and then a 1 underscore. It's only going to remove that. It won't remove 2, 3. It won't remove any other number than 00001 with an underscore at each end. Okay. Also, it won't do it unless it sees a pair. So if it didn't see Black Sun v3 bracket 7, it would not have removed it from the Black Sun v3 7 underscore. So it's looking for a pair and then removing it. And feel free to take a look at the code. I just generated it with AI anyway. Right. It's simple stuff, Why bother renaming it all manually when you can just get an AI to give you a script that you can just drop in and run and then done. I like that. I like that a lot. So when you're done with it, just delete it. Doesn't matter. It's a simple tool, you know. There's no need to, you know. It's one of the things you can do, guys. You know, we're going to be doing more stuff on things like that as well. So if you're into that, expect more stuff like that, but with the detail, because we've just skimmed over it today. All right, that is everything I had for you. So I hope I've showed you how you can use the tool. So we can use this tool to upgrade our data sets to Flux. We can take our old work and we can remix it. We can take our new models and we can inject them, and then we can create even more data sets, because the data set is king. The data set can be retrained on any base model as many times as you want. We're doing this for education and research. And I do remind everybody to be aware of the licensing. Of course, it's always good to know what the license is. But ultimately, you can do what you want with your own data. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.
So, memberships are here. I've added donator and member. The donator membership is just you want to support the channel, help us grow. Member, you're going to get some exclusive video access. And check out the join now button for more information.